Hello and welcome to Craftiosity, the subscription box of modern craft kits. This month you'll wrap, wind and stitch to create your project. We're creating a gathering knot placemat. The gathering knots used to create the mat are oh so simple but look very crisp and professional, a lovely winning combination. A little warning though, you might like this placemat so much that you don't want to actually put anything onto it. Inside your kit you'll find your soft cotton rope, your sewing needle and thread, your dusky pink, grey and sand-coloured balls of yarn, your thimble, and you'll also find your step-by-step photo instructions and a note card for your pinboard. Begin by measuring and cutting the following lengths of each colour of yarn. Group the cut lengths together by size and avoid tangling. Cut 6 times 2.5 metres from each ball. Then cut 6 times 3.5 metres from each ball. Each 2.5 metre length will wrap a 7.5 centimetre length of rope, and each 3.5 metre length will wrap a 10 centimetre length of rope. Take one of the 3.5 metre lengths of the sand-coloured yarn, we're just showing grey here so it's easier to see, but go with your sand yarn and curve the first 12 centimetres back on itself, forming a loop at the end. Lay this down on top of the rope. The loop should overlap the end of the rope slightly. The loop of yarn on top of your rope should measure around 12 centimetres. Pick up the rest of the 3.5 metre length of yarn that isn't lying on the rope and start to slowly and evenly wrap the yarn around the rope and the loop, wrapping towards the rope end. Make sure you leave 1 to 2 centimetres of the tail of the yarn poking out from the end of the wrap as shown. You can wrap towards or away from you around the rope, whichever feels best. Wrap all the way along the 10 centimetre section of rope. Keep your wrapping taut and even, laying each wrap next to the previous one. When you reach the end, leave 1 centimetre of the loop poking out of the wrap. Take the end of the yarn you have been using to wrap and insert it into this loop. You should now have 1 to 2 centimetres length of yarn poking out at the end where you started wrapping, and 1 centimetre loop of yarn with the opposite end fed through it. Placing your hand on the wrap, take a hold of the 1 to 2 centimetre end at the start of your wrap section. Gently pull it until the loop at the opposite end disappears inside the wrap a short way. Your first gathering knot is formed. You can now trim the ends up to the wrapped section. Repeat this process, wrapping the cut lengths of yarn around the rope, changing the colour each time. Each 3.5 metre length will wrap 10 centimetres of rope, so form a 12 centimetre loop at the start of your wrap, as you did before. Each 2.5 centimetre length will wrap 7.5 centimetres of rope, so form a 9.5 centimetre loop at the start of your wrap. This pattern includes sections of the actual rope showing through. To create the random effect with your wrapping, make sure you leave gaps between every 2 to 3 wraps. The gap should measure either 2.5 or 5 centimetres to create the same look as the placemat we've created here. If you would like to wrap all the rope and leave no gaps, your final placemat will be a little smaller than ours. Once you have wrapped approximately 1 metre length of your rope, thread your needle with an arm's length of the sewing thread. Double the thread and knot so the knot at the end captures both ends of the thread. Curve the wrapped end of the rope around on itself as tightly as you're able and use a series of small stitches through the end of the rope to secure the start of the coil. Firmly coil the rope around on itself in a spiral, using small stitches every 2 centimetres or so, securing the coil by sewing through the edge of the rope in a zigzag direction. The stitches should all sit on one side of your placemat. This will be the underside of your work. Sew on the spot every 10 centimetres or so to secure the thread or when you reach the end of your thread. You may find it easier to sew with the coil on a flat surface to create a flat and even spiral. Don't worry about sewing through the very middle of the rope. Aim to catch the edges where the next coil of rope meets the previous coil. Work around in a spiral in this way, sewing the first 1 metre of rope into a flat coil. When the first 1 metre of wrapped rope is sewn into a coil, wrap the remaining rope in gathering knots with 2.5 cm or 5 cm spaces as you did before, until you reach the end of the rope or you run out of your lengths of yarn. When you've finished with your gathering knots, sew the rest of the rope into the coil in the same way. At the end of the wrap, sew the reverse of the coil on the spot to secure the end firmly. Cut the rope 5 cm from the end of the last wrap and using a wire bristle hairbrush or pet grooming brush to brush out the fibres of your rope. Trim if you need to. And well done, your placemat is complete. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and we look forward to welcoming you to the next craft kit next month.